Hello, my name is Kaolin Young, and I am a 200-hour registered yoga teacher. I teach at the Prescott YMCA and at Gripstone Climbing Gym. I also teach here at Sundara Sanctuary, where we are today. And today I'd just like to show you some postures that help with sleep. So a lot of people find that falling asleep is hard or staying asleep is hard. I'm just going to give you a few suggestions to try. Aside from, of course, turning off your phone and the TV an hour before you go to bed, those are always good practices, but these might help. So I'm going to go through a couple here, just a few today. So we're going to start with a regular seated forward fold, but we are going to use some props here. So this would be easy if you had some blankets or pillows nearby, or even if you have a yoga mat and all the supports and props to go with it. So I'm just going to start by lifting my hips just a little bit off of the floor. With a blanket, you can even roll up a towel or something like that. And then the lifting of the hips helps a little bit if you have tight hamstrings. So if you don't have tight hamstrings and you can sit flat on the floor, that's perfectly fine too. So we're going to take our feet a little bit wider here than we normally would for a typical forward fold. And then we're going to have a couple bolsters here in the center. I'm going to bring them in between my legs. And then of course here my heels are on the hard floor, but you might want to put something soft under there. But from here you can take a big deep breath in. And then from here fold forward. So you're laying your chest and your body, all of your body weight down on the bolster. So for me, it might actually work better to only use one. I'll take that out of the way. So you're kind of hugging down and of course not breathing into the pillow, but finding a place where you can lay your head. And for you, you might have two bolsters or two pillows, but the goal here is really to relax. So you're not doing any work. You're kind of letting your body weight fall into the pillows. And of course, the whole time keeping your breath really deep, long, with each breath out, focusing on relaxing in your hips. A lot of times we take tension into our legs without even realizing it. So focus on relaxing your legs, letting your body weight really sink into the supports that you have. And then you can spend as much time there as you need. With any luck, you start to feel sleepy. So seated forward fold is one way to go. After that, you can try reclined bound angle pose. This one also really helps with your hips. And there are lots of ways to prop this up, but we'll lay you down on your back. You'll take the soles of your feet together and let your knees fall open. And then you may want to put a pillow or just a blanket under your head here to support your neck. And you're, again, using your deep breath. On your exhales, really focusing on letting gravity pull your knees down. And so people with tight hips might find this a little uncomfortable. You can do a couple of things. You can take blocks on either side of your legs here, and that just give something for your legs to fall into so you can actually relax. The goal here being the same, that it doesn't take any effort to be here. You're just focusing on your breath. Maybe even starting a mental body scan. So you're thinking about your toes and your feet up into your knees, and any place that you stop and you notice that it's tight, take a couple breaths. And once you feel that part of your body relax, you continue your scan. And of course, stay here as long as you need to until you hopefully feel sleepy. So there are a couple other ways to support that. You can put a blanket under your low back. You can also, depending on what surface you're on, place a blanket under your ankles. Sometimes a hard floor can not feel so good on your heels or your ankles, so you can try that too. Our third posture here today is called legs up the wall. I've also heard it called waterfall. but there are a couple ways to get into it. A lot of people try to scoot their tush right up to the top and then scoot themselves, right, wiggle themselves up toward the wall, which can work. Sometimes it's hard to scoot yourself that way. And we're gonna take a more restorative version of that today. So we're gonna take a bolster here, 5 inches or so away from the wall, and you'll sit on the bolster, and then you'll swing your legs up onto the wall. So while you're here, you kind of find your back in a supported arch. Okay, you can even grab a blanket or another bolster for your head and your neck. So with your feet up the wall here, we're kind of reversing the blood flow. I guess that's not really the proper term, but it feels nice to have not all the blood sit in your feet. It's really great if you have tired legs. And so your tush is kind of hanging off the side of the bolster here. It can also feel really good to set the bolster right under your pelvis, under your sacrum here, and support your hips entirely. So you're really just gonna have to find what works for you, and then find a comfortable place for your arms. Now a slight gentle back bend like I have here in this posture is probably fine. Some people are really sensitive to back bends, so you might find online there might be some suggestions that some postures with some really big back bends are great for right before bed. For me, back bends are like a shot of espresso. So I don't do those before bed, but you'll just have to see what works for you. And then finally, regular Shavasana, they call it corpse pose, because it usually signifies the death of your yoga practice. But we're gonna take kind of a restorative version today. So down on your back, again, using a blanket or any props that you need to support. So you could even take the bolster under your knees, so you kind of have a natural curve in your spine, your legs are supported, your head is supported. You can even take a blanket. Shavasana is much more calming and restorative if your hands and your feet aren't cold. So use as many props as you need to be able to relax into corpse pose here. So again, takes no effort. I shouldn't say that. Some people have a hard time, sitting this way with nothing going on. So it's not really effortless, but you're not working physically, right? And so again, Shavasana is a great place to do that body scan where you start at your toes. You think about every muscle and bone as you work your way up your legs, across your belly, across your chest, pausing at each place where you feel tension. And then using your breath, long, deep breaths, to slowly sink into the mat. So as if the mat and the earth are supporting you. And less like that feeling of not wanting to fall asleep on someone, right? Where you're kind of holding yourself up off the floor. Letting your shoulders melt. And then you stay here as long as you need.